Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is David Stillman. I'm the transportation manager for the City of Cupertino. First, I want to thank you for sharing your time this evening to join us here and learn about the city's local road safety plan project. Last year, the city received a grant from the state of California to create a local road safety plan, the goal of which is to help the city to reduce fatal and severe injury accidents on the city's roadways and intersections. This is going to be achieved through data collection and through public outreach, which will help the city to identify high crash locations and to identify safety improvements on the roadways. Completing this plan will also enable the city to be eligible for certain grant programs that are specifically for the purpose of doing safety infrastructure improvements on the city's roadways. We've hired TJKM transportation consultants to assist us with this effort. So I'd like to introduce Ria Debnath from TJKM, who will share a presentation with you and provide more information about this project.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining in. I'm Ria Debnath, and I'm a transportation planner with TJKM Transportation Consultants. I'm currently assisting the City of Cupertino and Ruta Jariwala, my colleague, to develop this local road safety plan. Ruta, you want to introduce yourself?
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Ruta Jariwala, and I am the project manager on this project and leading this project and helping city develop a safe plan so that it's safer for all modes of transportation. I do see that there are a couple of attendees trickling in. So I think, David, if it's okay, could we give them a few minutes before I can start my presentation?
Yes, of course.
Maybe a minute or two, just, want to make sure that we are respecting everyone's time. So whoever is in time, we should start. But I do see a few people trickling in, so just want to give another half a minute to them. Let's get started here. It's 6:04. So the purpose of today's meeting, we want to introduce what is local road safety plan, what do we intend to do in this project, quickly talk about the project timeline. We also want to talk about one important topic, which is what is your role as safety champions in this project. So a little bit about why we want you to get involved and how would that benefit not only us, but everyone in the community. Present some preliminary collision analysis and our findings. Also, we do have a project online dashboard, which has a map input feature. It's a platform where you could use to send us your comments and concerns. If some of your friends have not been able to attend today, it's a great tool where they could still go ahead and let us know what their concerns are, what they like or what they dislike, or where do they really want us to focus. So we'll go through that map input platform. It's a great tool. You can actually zoom in to a level where you can actually look into at a driveway or an intersection or a roadway segment and kind of let us know that every time I walk through, say for example, Dianza Boulevard, I cross this driveway and I don't feel safe. Can you do something about it? So it's that kind of input platform where you could let us know exactly where your concerns are. And then later on, we open up to discussion. You are here today, you're spending this time, we want to hear from you. So we'll open up for an open discussion and you can let us know, what your concerns are. We can zoom into a Google map or any other platform that we might have so that you can explain your concerns and elaborate on that. And then lastly, before we end, what are the next steps? Where do we go from here? Next slide, please. So what is a local road safety plan? We abbreviate it to LRSP. The whole overarching goal for local road safety plan is to reduce fatality and severe injuries. In fact, I would say not only fatality and severe injuries, but any kind of collisions that occur on cities, roadways, and intersection. And the way we do that is we first identify and analyze the collision analysis that we have collected for last 5 years. And then we prioritize those locations that need to be treated. So those locations could be roadway segments, or it could be intersection. And, anything that, like, say, for example, we come up with an implementation plan, then we definitely need funds to do that. So through this process, we also identify some funding mechanism, and definitely this process leads to eligibility to Highway Safety Improvement Program, which is a great funding source, and we will help city to apply for that so that we can have some of these improvements implemented. And through this program, it's not only engineering aspect that we look at, we also look at non-engineering aspect, and that's the reason we have 4 E's that we really focus on. One is education, the other one is enforcement, definitely engineering, and then emergency medical services. We want to make sure that, if no matter what we do, and if there is a collision that has occurred, which is unavoidable, then, the help should reach to them as soon as possible. So those are the 4 E's that this particular plan really focuses on. Next slide, please. Just quickly, where are we in the project? We collected the data. We also did the system review. We wanted to make sure that city is doing a lot of effort to make sure that our transportation infrastructure is safe. So we wanted to build on top of that, and we wanted to give some suggestions on everything that has been done so far, and we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So we did look into a lot of data collection and did system review as well as literature review as to what plans were done so far. We established project goals and objectives. We also, like I mentioned before on my previous slide, that we did some collision trend analysis, and the collision trend analysis included 5 years worth of data, which started from 2015 through 2019. Based on the analysis, we have identified some high-risk injury locations, and we're going to share that with you today. And we also had one stakeholder meeting, and today is the first community workshop meeting. So this is the first time we are meeting with you, and we really want to take this opportunity to hear from you. Once that's done, we will identify some emphasis areas, develop a countermeasure toolbox that we will be leaving with the city, because such kind of plans cannot be done and forgotten. We really have to monitor them and work towards it. So we will be developing a countermeasure toolbox that city will be using to implement some of the improvements, and then they would be monitoring them to make sure that they work for the community and city. Then after that, we will develop some safety projects. As I mentioned, we do need to develop safety projects and prioritize them, because at the end of the day, we do need to look for funds. So we will do some cost estimating as to see, what are the total funds that would be needed to implement some improvements. And then once that's done, we'll come up with a mechanism for funds. And all that actually rolls into a LRSP report, which will be submitted to the city towards the end. Next, please. As I mentioned, that the main task and the reason that we are meeting today is because we want to include you at the onset of the project. As you see that we just started the project, and we are really eager to hear from you about your traffic safety related issues. What do you face on daily basis? Are there any things that, I definitely know that city has implemented some improvements. Are there some improvements that you really like rectangular flashing beacon signs or something like that you really like? Do you like to see more pedestrian bicycle facilities? So we really want to hear from you as members of the community. If you're not able, I'm repeating this again, if you or your friends or your family members have not been able to attend today's meeting, this is not the end of it. We are going to come to you over and over again, but at the same time, we do have an interactive survey and map, which is on the city's website, and you do have opportunity to let us know what your issues and concerns are using that platform. Please share surveys with your friends and families. because we want to get maximum input from you, and stay informed by registering to our project website, because that kind of gives you an idea of when the next meeting is, what's going on, what are the reports that have been done. So we'll be kind of updating that website on a regular basis. So it will be a live website throughout the course of the project. Next, please. As I mentioned that we did do some preliminary analysis, and here I would like to hand it over to Ria so that she could go through some of the analysis that we have done so far.
Yes, thank you, Ruta. So as Ruta mentioned earlier, that we did conduct collision analysis between the year 2015 and 2019. And during that time, the city reported a total of approximately 2,140 collisions, and out of which around 71% resulted in property damage only collisions. Around 17% resulted in a complaint of pain injury. Over 9% actually resulted in a visible injury, and over 2% resulted in either a serious or a fatal injury, fatal collision. And actually there were a total of 3 fatalities that were recorded during that period. And during that time, 2015 and 16 saw the most number of collisions, but overall, like the number of fatal and severe injury collisions have remained mostly the same. And on the right, you can see the distribution of collisions within the city boundary. And you can see that most of them are concentrated on Stelling Road, De Anza Boulevard, Stevens Creek Boulevard, Home Street Road, Wolf Road, and McClellan Road. So now if we only consider like injury collisions, as in fatal, severe injury, visible injury, and complaint of pain injury collisions, and exclude property damage only collisions, we see that the most commonly occurring collision types among all of these injury collisions were rear-end collisions and broadside collisions. And comparing those injury collisions with fatal and severe injuries, or FSI collisions as we call here, we see that broadside and vehicle pedestrian were the most common. And we also saw that unsafe speed, automobile right-of-way violations, improper turning were the most common collision factors for all injury collisions. And the same trend can be seen for fatal and severe injury collisions. And when it came to modes, the vehicles that were mostly involved with, overall we saw that they were involved with other motor vehicles, but other prominent ones were bicycle, pedestrian, and fixed objects. And in the next couple of slides, we would talk about these pedestrian and bicycle collisions in a bit more detail. So looking at pedestrian collisions, there were, I think, a total of 72 pedestrian-related injury collisions, and out of which 11 led to either fatality or severe injury. And actually, all of the 3 fatal collisions that occurred in Cupertino between 2015 to 2019 involved a pedestrian. And if you look at the primary collision factors for such collisions, other hazardous violations constitute the most. And so basically, these are like signaling violations, passing violations, inattentive driving, or failing to yield. And the map on the left shows the distribution of these pedestrian collisions. Moving on to bicycle collision trends, there were a total of 147 bicycle-related injury collisions, and out of which 13 led to very severe injuries. And improper turning and automobile right-of-way violations actually cause the most bike injury collisions. And you can see the map on the left that shows the distribution within the city boundary. So after finding the prominent collision trends, the next step of the analysis was to find a high severity collision network. And we used the EPDO score methodology, or the equivalent property damage only methodology, to identify that network. And this method actually accounts for both the severity and frequency of collisions by converting each collision to an equivalent number of property damage only, or PDO collisions. And you can see in the table here that fatal and severe injury collisions were allotted 165, visible injury was allotted 11, complaint of pain was allotted 6, and PDO, because everything else got converted into a PDO, is scored 1. And we use this method to understand locations in Cupertino that are experiencing the most severe crashes. So locations that have like more severe crashes get a higher EPDO score. So the map on the right shows exactly that location and the geographic concentration within the boundary. So like lighter the color, the less is the EPDO score, and the darker the color constitutes like a higher EPDO score. So using that method, 10 intersections were identified as high risk intersections. And these 10 intersections actually had a total of 147 injury collisions, and out of which 24 led to a fatality or severe injury. And these intersections, I think the top 3 you can see, like Dianza Boulevard and Home Street Road, Bantley Drive and Stevens Creek Boulevard, Prunridge Avenue and Wolf Avenue were in like the top 3 ranked high risk intersections. Similarly, we identified 11 high-risk corridors, and these 11 corridors actually constituted around 390 injury collisions, including 38 fatal or severe injuries. And I think Stevens Creek Boulevard, Dianza Boulevard, Home State Road, Wolf Road, Bollinger Road were basically the top 5 of the 11 identified high-risk corridors. So when we move on to open discussion soon, if you have any comments regarding any of these locations that you see on the screen, we can go back to these slides. Please, feel free to raise your hand and let us know your opinions. Okay. So now we're going to move on to an open discussion where I think the first thing we should do is show you a quick demo on the project dashboard and how to provide your comments using the online survey. And then we can open up the floor to your questions and the overall discussions. Yeah. Okay, so engage cupertino.org/LRSP is the online dashboard. And this dashboard has a bit of project overview where you can read about why we're doing this project, and where are we going to receive the grants, and how are we going to apply this to the context of safety on local roads. It also talks about events. So it talks about today's meeting. It has a brief showcase of collision history from the past between 2015 and 19. It talks about the different stakeholders that are part of this project and how they're involved throughout. It gives you a brief project timeline, and it can change as as we move on with the project. But the main part of this dashboard is the report your area of concern section. Here you'll find this link in which if you click on it, it should take you to this platform where you can either point out at an intersection by pinning a location, or you can draw a line along a corridor or a region and provide your comments on, or your traffic safety related concerns and issues. So as an example, I can be like, just pin it here and say, or something, and it'll get recorded. Similarly, you can just, use this line feature and draw along the unsafe speeding. And if you have more comments, you can always go back. And if not, then you can just click on no and exit. And if you're interested, you can provide us with your name and email address so that we can reach out to you later on with any events that may come up, or when we need some input on the report. So with that, I think we can start with the open discussion. Right now, all the panelists here today will be able to take your questions or concerns that you may have, and we'll definitely note them down.
Looks like there's one attendee who has raised their hand. It's Eddie. I'll allow to talk. I'll give her access.
Prashant, it's hard to hear you. Could you repeat that again?
We have one hand raised. Her name is Eddie Leon. So Eddie, you can ask the question. I have unmuted you.
Yeah, David actually responded to my question. I wrote it in the text area, but I noticed, I think maybe that was the screen's too small, or I missed it, but I did not see an accident where on Bollinger near Estates Drive, where a car crashed into another car and then crashed into my house, which the back of the house faces abuts Bollinger. I was wondering about the data collection and whether or not it's due to the accident starting from San Jose side, and then therefore we might not have accurate data regarding accidents. And then David mentioned, gave a response there, but maybe if I just have access to the chart, then that's another way I can figure out whether the data there may be problems with the borders and reporting.
I did see that, Eddie. Yes,
Okay.
Collisions are reported in City of San Jose, and through this program, because we are just focusing on City of Cupertino, those are not listed as City of Cupertino collisions, but said that we have accounted for them, because we know that it really doesn't matter what city borderline the collision has occurred. It is an important collision, and that needs to be accounted for. So we have definitely accounted for those collisions that have occurred on Bollinger. It's just that since we are showing City of Cupertino collisions, it might not just show up, but that is accounted for 100%.
Okay, so the car crashed into my house. Should that show up on the map?
We do have a different map that it shows up in, but okay. Yes, that is accounted for.
That's the end of my question.
Okay, thank you, Eddie. And the next participant is Larry Dean. He has a question. I'm on. Okay.
Hello, team. My name is Larry Dean. I'm founder of Walk by Cupertino and a longtime resident here in the community. And I want to tip my hat to the city staff for all the work that they've been doing over the last 6-7 years to make it safe and easy to walk in the community. My first comment is I think the staff is very proud of the great work that they've done in improving our road conditions throughout the city, and continues to collect rewards, for their great work. Unfortunately, I think great roads attract traffic, and probably the core problem with our safety in traffic in the community is the commuter traffic. All the people coming from Saratoga, Los Gatos, and southerly parts going to Mountain View. And so it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment, but it lays into the need to have speed dampening throughout the city. I think we found on McClellan Road, with the way that we've shoehorned in the separated bike lanes, that speeds are down considerably on that road. Homestead and Stevens Creek, not so much, and the traffic will be coming back in spades as Apple and Google and the rest of the companies bring their employees back in. So speed dampening, I think, is a big issue that ought to be built into all the design mechanisms. The second point I want to make is the right on red light. I think there ought to be a substantial discussion to perhaps eliminate that throughout the city. As a driver, and if I'm stopped at, say, Stelling and De Anza, or De Anza and Stevens Creek, as a driver, it's hard to keep your eye on be alert, keep your eye on all the traffic and the pedestrians attempting to safely cross those intersections. So I think that's a huge issue on that side. If you take a look at the pedestrians, every time that you're stopped and waiting for them to cross an intersection, you can see they have the fear of God in their eyes, being concerned about getting hit, and is a very legitimate thing for them to be thinking. So at any rate, that's my comments. I think speed dampening, and I think the city should take a tougher, stronger, more intimate look at the right turn on red at all the intersections within the community. And thank you.
Thanks, Larry. Next one is from Jennifer.
Thank you. This is very interesting discussion, very timely. I just wanted to bring up the item that City of San Jose is planning on potentially putting in a Costco at Westgate West Shopping Center, which is Lawrence and Lawrence and Saratoga and Prospect, which has caused a great deal of drama. But in terms of the access of the traffic, and then also vehicles coming to unload products at the Costco, which would be where the 24-hour fitness was, we're potentially going to have trucks 24/7 coming down Lawrence Expressway from 280 or coming from 280 to Saratoga Avenue. And also you're going to have a lot of customers potentially coming. The neighborhood is fighting it over there. I don't know what their timeline is, but I just wanted to pass that along, since that could impede traffic on Lawrence and Bollinger. The other thing is about the right turn on red. I really don't want to eliminate that on secondary roads in Cupertino. It causes a tremendous amount of backup and agitation in people waiting. I'll tell you right now, the Stevens Creek and Wolf intersection is a project that is getting better. It was very difficult to implement and navigate in the beginning because of the abandonment of the right turn lanes. I tend to drive strictly in the middle lane of Stevens Creek now when I go up and down, because I don't want the hassle of trying to get out of the slow lane and deal with. And I'll tell you right now, I have never turned. I have not made a right turn onto Wolf Road going westbound on Stevens Creek at all. I avoid it because I don't understand how those turn signals work, and I just don't want to hassle with it. So I go another way, or I don't shop there. I've completely stopped shopping at Main Street because of the bike lanes. Now that's whatever. That's just my comment. But I think the bike lanes are safe. They're good. But I don't think that we want to be doing this, preventing right turn on red all over the city, because it causes a great deal of backup and pile up. And we need to be thinking about that. I avoid the El Camino and I think it's El Camino and Cityville Saratoga intersection. Ever since they got rid of the right turn lane, I've seen multiple accidents there because people are confused. They don't know how to turn correctly. Pedestrians are in the way. What I do is I turn right and I go into the shopping center and go out and avoid the whole intersection, and then go down further by the Petco and get out on El Camino. I'm more of an avoidance person. And if I see potentially something that's going to cause a big drama, I just don't go there. So anyway, those are my comments. You guys are doing a good job of keeping people safe, but those are just my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Next is Lisa Warren. Lisa, you can start.
Thank you. So I wasn't sure what this meeting was going to be or what I would speak about, but hearing other comments, I do want to mention it's been well over a year talking about right reds. Going east on Stevens Creek at Finch, which is across from Main Street, it's used to be Finch in Main Street, but they've changed the name because they were given the land or sold it inexpensively. But the high school is on Finch. And I mentioned this last summer because I'd wondered why. There is a whole new light system there, but it's been wrapped in a plastic garbage can and bag for over a year, well over a year. And I was concerned that it wasn't functioning when school was going to start with students instead of at home. It still has not been touched. And David Stillman mentioned there was some work tweaking they needed to do on the signals. I would really love for someone, David, you can tell me, I see you just popped in, what the heck? It still doesn't function. People ignore it because it's been there for so long and it means zero to anyone. And it's very dangerous because kids are crossing that constantly now that they're back in school. And the whole point was to make it safer for biking to school and just that intersection in general safer, but it's not. So I think the projects that have already been paid for and aren't functioning properly really need attention. I guess that's all I'll say right now. Thank you.
I can answer that, Lisa. So the original intent was that the operation of the traffic signal for eastbound Stevens Creek at Finch would be the same as we have or had at westbound Stevens Creek at Wolf, as previous resident discussed. When we implemented it at Wolf, it didn't function exactly like we had envisioned, and there were some complications in the operation of it that it's taken us some time to work out. And we wanted to get it right at Wolf before we went and implemented it at Finch. That's why we've kept those signal heads wrapped at Finch. We have now got it so that it's working at Wolf the way we would like it to. And so we are now going to go ahead and do the improvements at Finch to mimic what we have now at Wolf. We've got a couple parts on order for that, and I expect that within about a month we'll have those Finch will be operating, eastbound Finch eastbound Stevens Creek at Finch will be operating exactly the same as westbound Stevens Creek at Wolf. And that'll, part of that is removing the right turn only restriction in that right lane and removing the no right turn on red restriction. So you'll see that work happening imminently.
Okay, so I think I'm still unmuted. Can I speak again?
Sure.
So, okay, I heard that reply. I've been in other cities where, and I've never seen this, maybe it's happened on streets I don't go on, but in Cupertino, I've never seen this. Other cities will put out signs letting people know that traffic movement has changed. There's a change to it. And people aren't just suddenly faced with this new situation that they can't figure out, and they can't even be at a light long enough to understand what it's supposed to do in some cases. Stevens Creek and Wolf being that way, I hear from many people. So I would suggest when things like this are done that are such major changes and new to everyone, that there be some kind of warning like other cities do. And they leave it up for a few months, 3 or 4 months has been my observation, that, hey, traffic patterns are changing. Like, hello, pay attention. And if it's taken this long to figure out the best way to operate something that was probably very costly at Wolf and Stevens Creek, it seems like there should be some effort to educate people on how it's supposed to work. And if it changes while you're tweaking it, trying to test it, because some people might be used to what it initially did that the city wasn't happy with, and so they made a change, and now it's different, so they don't know that. They're just going along their merry way. They think they have it figured out by now. It's all very dangerous, in my opinion. And so just please, and by the way, the other day, I saw a car driving between the sidewalk and the protected bike sections at the corner of Stevens Creek and Tantow. They actually drove entirely down in the bike path to make a right-hand turn on Tantow. It's something I've never seen before, but I thought it was interesting that a car is able to fit in there, so that is a possibility. Anyway, thank you for the answer. Hopefully it gets fixed. And please, by all means, tell the school to educate the students what this is supposed to do. So when they're pedestrians and bicyclists and drivers, they're using it properly on Finch. There's no reason the school can't show some little video in an assembly and say, hey, if you're going this way, this is what it's going to look like. This is how it's supposed to be used. And it's going to take time for people to understand it. So please be careful. So that would be really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much. The next one is Jennifer Sharin. Yeah, Jennifer, you can go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me right now?
Yes, yes.
Awesome. So I want to address a couple things that have been said by a couple people just prior to me. One is Lisa's concern about whether or not the school has educated parents and students about how to use those bike lanes near the school. And I can tell you that myself, as well as Safe Routes to School, Cherie Wakowiak, and a bunch of students who are the Safe Routes to School representatives, created a video which has gone out to all the parents and has gone out to all the students. And this happened, I believe it was late last year. So all of the school is aware of what's happening with those bike lanes. And from a perspective of someone who does bike, I will say that the protected bike lanes make you feel a lot more comfortable. They may be a nuisance to people who don't bike, but they're going to get us hopefully a little bit more out of our cars, which is a good thing, especially with gas getting to be around $6 a gallon. But the other concern I had was something that Ms. Griffin said, which was she identified pedestrians as being in the way. in an intersection. And I want to make sure that we all acknowledge together that cars don't own an intersection. Cars are one mode of transport through an intersection. Pedestrians and cyclists and people on scooters, for example, all go through intersections. We all use them. All modes of transport are important. So we need to make sure that we are considering all of them and not considering only car traffic and nothing else. I will say that the changes at Finch and Stevens Creek, as far as I can tell, have worked out pretty well. Students are walking across quite safely. There's always going to be someone in a car that does something strange, which is why we notice it. I've seen people go over the median on Stevens Creek when they're trying to make a U-turn twice one time in one day, which was crazy. We can't fix drivers who don't really know what they're doing. We really can't do that. However, we need to make sure that this is not something that prevents us from creating new infrastructure that actually helps those trying to not use their car. One of the things about the local road safety plan that does concern me is that it's more looks at what the data is right now. And that would mean reported accidents. As we know, based on data, we know that accidents are pretty much only about 25% of them are ever reported. So therefore, we don't have a lot of data. And I'm hoping that with this great tool, we'll be able to get more information from people locally about where the problem areas are that maybe there haven't been an accident, but you might be avoiding on your bike or walking because there's a problem there. And in fact, what I'm doing at one of our local schools, which is Cupertino High School, and also at Monte Vista, is bringing maps to them on a specific biking and walking encouragement day to have the students actually point out on maps where they've had near misses or where they've had accidents or where they find trouble. Because I think that students tend to be an underserved population as far as being heard when this sort of happens. We get a lot of adults, we don't get a lot of students, and they're the ones a lot of times on bikes because they don't have a driver's license. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say, but I just want to make sure that we're all in this together. It's not cars versus bikes, it's every mode of transport. Thanks.
Some great comments, Jennifer, and just wanted to point out that, you're right. Some of these plans like local road safety plan or SSARs, it seems like we are just looking at the data and doing the analysis and, kind of going from there, but they are just means so that we can have somewhere to start with. The reason why they are very, very focused on stakeholder outreaches and community outreach is because we want to proactively treat some of those locations where the collisions have not occurred. And that's why we are having these meetings throughout the process, because we want to hear from the community, where are those locations? Because they do not come up in the analysis. It would come up only when we talk to you. So yes, we are trying our level best to make this plan not a reactive plan, but a proactive plan by having you involved at the onset of the project. So really, really appreciate all your comments, not only you, but everyone who has given comments so far. This is what we are looking for. We really appreciate that you're coming out and talking about this.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you giving us all an opportunity to give our input.
Yeah, please do spread the word around, whatever you're doing with maps with the kids, if they can go to our MapShare platform and let us know about those locations through that, we would really appreciate that too.
Well, we've got two things we're going to be doing. And again, this is with Safe Routes to School. So just so you know, the city staff is helping out. We'll have not only a QR code that the students can go directly to the site to put in their issues, but we'll also have, if they don't have the time, because let's face it, sometimes students are running out, they'll be able to just put it on the map. And then I'm personally going to put them in so that it will all be recorded. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks. I'm going to sign off now.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you very much. Next is John Zoha. John, you can go ahead.
Hello, my name is John.
John.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was unmuted. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is John Zhao. Thank you for holding this workshop. It's very informative to see all of the data and the maps. I guess a quick question is, where can we find this information for the future? And then I have other comments. So one is, I'm wondering if there's any targeted outreach that's being done for like specific populations that have like specific mobility needs. I'm thinking about like wheelchair users, people with limited mobility, seniors. Like, is there any outreach being done to the senior center, for example? Because I think it's important to make sure we are, making sure the sidewalks are accessible for everyone. Crosswalks are safe, and also in terms of like the amount of time for crossing. And then on the topic of the right turn on reds or the no rights on reds, I think maybe one way to do some education around that is if the city can have ambassadors at those intersections and pass out flyers to the cars that are in the right lane, because like some people have pointed out, there's some pile up there, so they're waiting anyway, right? So why don't we just give them some information while they're waiting? So you can pass out flyers to drivers there. And then my other comment is, so I'm actually I bike and I also drive. So I kind of have like experiences on like all kinds of ends. I also walk, so, but I think something that would be important to look at is intersections where there are unprotected left turns. So one example would be like Pacifica turning left onto South Blaney. So South Blaney, there's no stop sign. People just go straight through, while Pacifica, they have to look both ways and they have to like inch forward in the crosswalk, blocking pedestrians from being able to cross within the crosswalk. So I think that's just like not the best, I guess, arrangement. So just maybe the city can think of like what are some countermeasures to make that those kinds of intersections feel safer, especially like for bicycles that are crossing on the other way. They might, like drivers who are trying to turn left, they might, run into bikes. So that's just like one example. And then I guess the last thing I'll share is I'm wondering, or I would definitely advocate revisiting some of the speed limits, because there's certain kind of roads that like South Blaney, for example, I think the speed limit is 30 miles per hour. And that's like a pretty residential street, even though it kind of does connect Bollinger and Stevens Creek. A lot of students use that road to commute to like Eaton or North Blaney to Lawson. So I think we should look at like lowering potentially to 25 miles an hour, because I know like, I believe Vision Zero, they say that like the safe speed limit is like somewhere around 22.5 miles an hour or something. So we should really think about like in the more like residential areas, lowering some of the speed limits. That's all I have to share. Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John. Ria, I know we don't have a chat function, but could you please put our project website link in Q&A? Sorry, go ahead, Prashant.
Yeah, we have one more hand raised. Jennifer.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to respond to Jennifer Sharon's comment. Sorry if it sounded like I had said that pedestrians were in the way. I don't remember saying that. Maybe she misinterpreted what I was saying. I rode the bus to San Jose State for 4 years when I was in college, all the way up and down Stevens Creek Boulevard. I did not have a driver's license at that time. I have been a pedestrian until my mid-20s when I got my driver's license, when I got my first job in Cupertino. I am very, very aware of pedestrians. I have elderly parents and relatives, and we are very, very cognizant of issues that pertain to pedestrians. My husband walks regularly around the city all the time, so he has a lot of comments that he sees on things that happen in the city, bikes and cars. we need to remember that not everyone is physically capable of riding a bicycle. Yes, I would love to be able to ride a bicycle, but at this point in my life, I am not capable. I would love to ride a horse around the city. We used to do that in the olden days in Cupertino. That's not appropriate anymore. But we need to be cognizant that there is a great percentage of the population that are not able to ride bicycles, and we should not be made to feel bad because we cannot do that. This is an equal access multimodal city. Therefore, we all need to stay safe. I am glad that Mr. Stillman let me know in the chat that they have removed the inability to turn right on a red at Wolf. I think that might be a good plan. I might feel comfortable now to turn right there. But I do appreciate Mr. Stillman giving me that information because I just had not looked. But I really do encourage people to remember that everyone in this city has challenges to movement. My 90-year-old mother has difficulty and she cannot ride a bicycle. So therefore, we need to make sure that we do not say things to hurt other people's feelings. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Looks like we don't have any hands raised. So I think we can conclude the meeting. Like, you want to say anything and end statement? Either Ruta or David, do you want to say anything?
No, just, Jennifer brought a good point that her husband is, walking a lot. And Jennifer, if you could please request him to go to our project website and, list the concerns there, that would be pretty helpful.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody again for taking the time to join us this evening. And I hope this was educational and that you'll participate in some of the data collection that we're requesting from you. Feel free to reach out directly to myself or to Prashant at the city if you would like to follow up on anything that was discussed during the workshop. We'll be happy to talk to you further. So again, thank you, everybody, and have a great evening.